Today I'm going to show you how one simple quilt motif can be used in a variety of ways in your quilt projects. Hi, I'm Kim Jamison Hurst, and one of the first designs that I teach beginners when they're learning to free motion quilt is wavy lines, a really simple design, but you can use it in a variety of ways. And I just want to show you what wavy lines look like at their simplest. So I've got a few samples here. So really it's just a smooth back and forth line, and you can do lots of different things with it to change up the look of it. So for example, in the first line, I've got these high waves. In the second one, they're a little lower and spaced out a little bit differently. And then in the third one here, I've actually combined high and low waves, and the low ones are a little bit wider in some cases. So you can vary the width between the waves, you can vary the height of the waves to give different looks. Now you can also combine them together. So for example, here I have a sample. These are vertical ones going up and down. And this one's quite wide waves, not as many waves in this particular line of stitching as there is in this one, where they're kind of shorter and choppier waves. But you can also put them together in groups, and that's really quite interesting too. So in this particular example, I actually started with these three waves. They look fairly similar. You can see how they go along here, about the same height, about the same distance between the waves. And then I thought there was too much space in between, so I added some shallower stitching, shallower wave stitching in there. And when you put them all together, they look quite interesting, right? You've got some different textures going on in there. The other thing I like to do when I'm putting these waves together is I like to put them together when I'm putting sets of them together, in uneven numbers. So you see I have 5 here, the top one here, although these are just examples, there's 3 of them. I think that looks a little bit better than putting them together with just 2 of them, for example, or just even numbers. Odd numbers seem to work a little bit better. Now the other thing you can do with wavy lines is you can create a wavy crosshatch. So this is really cool. I'm going to tell you some of the advantages of it. So what I did to start is I quilted the 3 wavy lines you see here. They're vertical to you. And then I went back in and I quilted 2 sets of horizontal wavy lines. And there's different spacing between these than there is between the vertical ones. Add a little bit more interest. But what's nice about doing a wavy crosshatch is, unlike ones that you usually do with straight lines, is you don't have to be perfect with your spacing between any of the lines, and you still get the same effect. If you don't have the same spacing between straight lines when you're doing a crosshatch, it's quite obvious and it doesn't look quite right. But with the wavy crosshatch, if they're not quite perfect, you can get away with it and the effect is still there. So I want to show you some other things you can do with wavy lines in quilt blocks. You don't have to be that adventurous when you're starting off with wavy lines in blocks. In this example, I am just going back and forth, switching between vertical, back and forth wavy lines and horizontal ones. And so the point here is that I'm alternating. So this is mocked up to be, different blocks, and you can see that in each block, whether it's next to it or below it, that the lines are going in a different direction. So let me just finish this one up so you can see what the effect is. And while I only have 4 blocks here, you could run this across as many blocks as you may have. So I've actually, as you can see, already partially stitched this out. So I did lock my stitches, so I'm just locking my stitches here. Typically you will just continue right on. So that's what's nice about this particular design, or using wavy lines in this manner, is that it's a continuous design. You can just keep going. As long as you're switching directions, you're good. All right, so now I know that I need to switch directions here, and I want to end up at the top, so I'm going to be going back and forth in this direction. So you do have to think a little bit about your path, but you see me doing this with my finger all the time. That's how I kind of get it into my head as to where I'm going to go next. Okay, worst case scenario, you get going in the wrong direction, put an extra line in, you'll probably end up back where you want to be, usually. And you got to stop and reposition whenever you need to. Okay, so I know I want to end up over here, so this is probably going to be my last line going back. And I'll just stop here. All right, so let's get rid of that long thread. A little bit distracting there. Okay, so you can see here that we've been going back and forth. We're alternating our directions as we go along. And I'm not really worried about how many lines I have in here. I do like to have uneven numbers, but it just kind of seems to work out. I'm not really worried about the spacing between them. Actually, with practice, you'll tend to find that you do pretty even spacing. I do sometimes use the edge of my foot to keep me about the same distance away from the edge in different places. This one I've gone a little closer than that, but it doesn't really matter in the end. They all look the same. You know, you're not going to go and, oh my goodness, you know, they were farther away here and closer there. You really don't notice those. In the end, you'll just notice the overall texture created with the wavy lines. Let's take a look at another way you can use wavy lines in blocks. So these designs can be used in blocks. So I've kind of mocked up some blocks here with just some chalk markings on my practice sandwich here. And you can do some things like, in this case, I've got diagonal lines going back and forth. So I started down here, okay, and I went diagonally across my block before I went into the next block. So you can make, you know, the waves as much waviness as you want. You can make them straighter if you want as well, but you can continue with these alternating the lines back and forth. Let me just change this around here a little bit here to give you a different look at it. So you can see what this looks like. So it looks quite organic, and you can see here that I want to continue on and finish off this next block. So this works well in groups of 4 because you're going to form a design that comes together in the center. So I just want to show you how I will finish this off. So I've actually locked my stitches here. Typically I wouldn't do that. I would just be continuing on. And when I should just pull back and show you what I'm going to do here. When I'm coming here, I want to make this one the same as this, right? So I've come down this direction. Now I want to shift my direction. And I'm going to be going back in this direction before I end up back at the top there. I have to think about this. So it's always a good idea to do some tracing first and know I'm going to come here and go that direction, okay? So it's a little bit of a mind twister, but let's see how it works. Okay, we're just going to get that thread out of the way. If I stitched over it, I could pull it out later on. And we're going to go back and forth, right? I have to remember what I'm doing. Okay, I have to stop and reposition every so often too on this. And you can make the width between the different lines as wide or as narrow as you want. Doesn't really matter. I want to come back and join up there at the top. You don't have to, but it's kind of nice to. All right, so then what you get is something like this. So quite an organic look, kind of fun actually, and it's very freeing because, as I said, you can put as many wiggles or waves or as few as you want in each of these areas, but you can see how this is kind of coming together to form a design. Another thing you can do with wavy lines, besides alternating the direction you're going, is you can increase or decrease, in other words, change the width between the lines between each block. So for example here, this could be a sashing, for example, or a border. I've got these narrow back and forth vertical lines, so there's not as much space between these lines as there is between these. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here I have 1, 2, 3, and then it's going across. So this almost looks like stippling when you start doing this, but it does give different texture because you've got the tight lines together and then you've got the wider apart ones, and you are changing direction as well. So a few things to think about with this one, but I want to just show you a couple more of these so you can get the idea. So again, even though I could have continued on with this without breaking thread, I broke thread because I wanted to show you what it looks like initially. And then I'll show you what it looks like as I continue on. So I was going horizontally here, so now I need to go vertically, right? And I'm going to go, let's see, if I do my path like this, I want to make sure I can end up near the top for the next one, so we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm up at the top there for that next block, that next area. So now I'm going to switch and go horizontally, but I want to make sure I have wider spaces between my lines. So I got to think about a couple things here. Again, if I want to use my finger to draw my path, get that in my head, not a bad idea. And I would just continue on as far as I needed to go in that particular area. So you can see what this looks like. I might want to actually do less bumps, less waves in these ones, a little smoother, just back and forth, but again, gives a very organic look. If I was continuing on to another row, let's say, again, I would alternate. So I would be doing, for example, here, I would be doing the back and forth vertical lines are close together, and then do the wider horizontal lines here. So you always want to make sure that you've got that juxtaposition of the two different directions and spacing in this particular case. So I hope that gives you a few ideas of how you can take a really simple free motion quilting motif, wavy lines, and use it in different ways in your quilt projects. If you have any ideas on how you can use wavy lines in quilting projects, please leave a comment below because I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. Also, I have other videos on free motion quilting designs, so check the description below for links to those videos. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps to get it in front of other viewers just like you. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video. And before you go, check out these other videos I've included just for you. For more helpful quilting information, be sure to go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com. So you can be, what did I say? You don't have to be. Oh, yeah, you don't have to be adventurous.